Today is a very exciting and special episode with a dear friend of mine. I have been just honored to get to know this woman from a business perspective. She's an incredible friend and just one of the most amazing thought leaders that I have ever had the honor of talking with. And I'm just so honored that we get to spend the next couple of minutes and just pouring into you, the listener who we're talking to. And I'd like to welcome Amber Bibelheimer to the show. Welcome,
Wow,
Amber.
thank you. I'm honored by your introduction and I'm so excited to be here. I always love talking with you. Every time I learn something and go away inspired. So I know that it's going to be great for everybody today.
You're so sweet. It's same here. Amber is actually a productivity, business, and mindset growth coach. She does that for working women, for mom CEOs, which we know motherhood and business, they are two very intense buckets. But Amber actually helps them go from feeling overwhelmed and overworked to thriving. And that's in both businesshood and motherhood. Businesshood, I guess that's a new word.
I like
So,
that.
Amber actually also has a podcast. So, if you want to look her up, it's called the Momentum Restart Podcast. And since motherhood is always a big topic on this podcast, too, she is a mom of two boys. And all of those things are why I wanted Amber on this podcast. She is so inspiring. Cannot wait for you to hear more about her. And that's where we'll start. Amber, can you tell me more about yourself, about your journey, and how you got to where you are now?
Absolutely. Before I started business coaching about 5 years ago now, my life up until kids was all music all the time. And
Hmm.
I still have that with me today, but from 15 to 30, I sang and wrote and recorded and performed, and that was how I lived and breathed every day. And then when I created my Momentum Restart project and method in 2020, it was because I used to think what was stopping me from success in whatever area, whether it was in business or music, was that I wasn't working hard enough and that maybe I just needed to push harder, work longer, go all in, as people say. And then I learned through time, it was around 2020 when I realized that the key to success is not doing more, but more permission that we need to get out of our own way. And with that permission, it comes peace and wholeness and life
Hmm.
better than we could imagined. And really, it reminds me of a story of I grew up in a really small town where everybody looked and acted the same. And it was a family vacation that we took from our small town in North Dakota to New York City when I was about 12 years old. And I still remember I was wearing purple leggings and I had freshly permed red hair. And we went to my first Broadway show, Phantom of the Opera. And I remember sitting on the edge of my seat, that velvet fold up seat, and I was hanging on every word. And I still get chills remembering when Christine hits that high E and you forget everything else in the world other than that moment and that note. And I'll never forget what happened when I heard that sound. It was tears filled my eyes, goosebumps everywhere. It was like her pitch broke a frosted glass that I could suddenly see behind. And I just wanted more. And that trip changed me and really set me on the trajectory of the next 20 years and moving towards music and business. But through those 20 years, what happened is I started to let my voice get quieter and I let my identity start to be formed by those around me again. I started losing touch with those parts of myself that I love most. I left music behind. I became a mom and I put all my focus in my family. I was managing other people's businesses instead of my own. And I was really focused on helping everyone else live their dreams. And my voice got whisper quiet and really just ignoring myself for the sake of others until I was scrolling through Instagram, as we all do from time to time. And I was scrolling through Instagram and a business coach, her name is Susan, her I followed her because a friend had told me about her and her post popped up And it was a story of her hiking in Colorado with her two sons. And her sons were the same age as mine. And I remember looking at her and thinking how free she looked. She just looked free and full of peace. And there was nothing about hustle. And I said, that is what I want. I want time with my boys. I want my business to grow, not just for numbers, but so that I can have that life. That's the life I want, surrounded by people that I love and doing work that lights me up. And so now, over the last 4 years, coming back to my whole self, bringing music in again too, and remembering what I wanted growing up, those dreams that I want to live different, that I want to have possibilities and let go of having the pressure of doing business a certain way and instead having freedom. So that's exactly what I'm doing now for women entrepreneurs, is helping them find that permission and practice that they need to be successful businesswomen while also having a family and enjoying life too, to be their whole self.
Wow, Amber, I never even knew some of the parts of that story. And as you were describing, like, first of all, like that experience with the Phantom of the Opera, Broadway, I know exactly what note you're talking about. I've watched like the movie version, I've seen it live, and it's powerful. And the fact that it prompted you to kind of see this new vision for yourself, even though you went through a journey of like almost losing the vision, losing your voice, and then coming back, it just is such a signal and a sign of how powerful music is. And what I love about your story is that you have taken your desire for your voice to be heard, your experiences with it not being heard, and now you're actually, by having your voice be heard, have other women's voice be heard. So the
Yes.
thing that you were trying to accomplish initially is actually being accomplished because you're letting your voice be heard. So
Yeah.
it just is a sign that we need to create these frameworks, the right momentum to have
Mm-hmm.
our voice be heard in the right way that matches what we want in life, like being mothers that are exceptional and being business owners that are exceptional without the burnout, without the lack of balance.
Right.
So,
And that ripple effect that
yeah,
we have in
it is.
everything you do
Mhm.
is a ripple effect and impacts someone else around you. And
Yeah.
often it means we have to go before, we have to go first, we have to lead
Hmm.
and do the
Hmm.
scary, hard thing first to
Yeah,
encourage others to do it.
exactly. Exactly. And what I'm really curious about is how do you, like, let's just dive into like what it is that you do. So
Yeah.
how do you allow women to do that scary thing? Like, do you have a specific framework for helping them do this? Tell me more.
Yes,
Anything that you'd love
absolutely.
to reveal
Yes.
to us.
So when I'm talking with women, usually moms, and we're usually at a point in our life where we're realizing, most of my clients are realizing there's more, there's something more I want to do, or maybe something I had let go that I want to bring back. And it can feel really overwhelming where to start. And so there's a framework that I take my clients through, whether we're planning 90 days for them or coaching or any container that I'm in. I'm always making sure to take them through these 5 steps. And it always starts with perspective. That's the very first step of really considering where you want to go. Like if you're driving on a long road trip, the very first thing you're going to do is decide, where are we going to go? What is important to us? And so that really looks like shutting out what everyone else says we should do, shutting out what we think we should do, and just really listening for a moment and thinking through, what is it that I really want? And I love asking clients, what does success mean to you? And then giving them permission to own that version of success instead of what we think we see
Yeah.
on Instagram or all over us, all around us with success. And
Hmm.
that perspective change shifts everything, and you get super clear on where you actually want to go. And after that
Hmm.
perspective change, the next step is making a plan, deciding how we're going to get there, taking the car from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And planning is a huge key piece of what I do,
Mm.
because we can have a big dream, but if
Yeah.
we don't actually know the small steps to take, the
Mm.
daily action steps, the hourly action steps, we're going to feel overwhelmed, or maybe we're going to
Yeah.
get burnt out. So I love making a plan that feels enjoyable, that there's life, fun,
Mm-hmm.
music, and business, all the things in once, all the things that light you up at once as you're driving there. And after the perspective and plan, then it's time to put it into practice. And I always encourage clients to just start with one thing. When they see their plan, we're just starting with one thing. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know where to start, it's usually choosing the easiest. Look
Mm.
at what's easiest, because that's going to get you momentum. It's going to get you moving
Yeah.
forward, get you a quick win. You're going to feel so excited, get those endorphins, and you're going to want to go on to that next step. The next step after that one is pull, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Pull. And I always encourage clients, it's like when you're driving on a road trip, you've got your plan, you know where you're going, you're driving, but you want to make that long road trip more fun. So you plan for a pull. You plan that, well, in this state, we're going to stop and see this crazy roadside attraction, or we're going to stop for Starbucks, which is usually my
Yeah.
pull any long trip. For knowing, my
Yeah.
kids always love to know when we're going to go to Culver's, which is a little burger and ice cream place here. So knowing where there's a pull, so that might be
Mm-hmm.
something your schedule, your day, that just makes the process of going after what you want more fun. So on those days,
Mm-hmm. I love that.
balancing where you have that hard work with something that you really enjoy, like
Mm-hmm.
music. And then
Yeah.
ultimately it's giving yourself permission to know that there's going to be detours, there's going to be life.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, especially for moms working at home.
Yeah.
We're going to have detours in our day, and we just have
Mm-hmm.
to expect them and know that we're going to have to adjust and not quit around those. And if you follow those
Mm-hmm.
5 steps with
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're trying to go, whether it's for the next 90
Mm-hmm.
days or the next week, it really can become a fine-tuned process that you can take yourself through that makes your life and your schedule and your hitting those goals so much more fun.
Amber, this is gold. Like I wasn't expecting you to be like strategic and inspiring at the same time. I guess I was expecting that because that's who you are, but this is so helpful
Good.
and so valuable. So we have the perspective. I just want to make sure I remember the five because this is like I'm totally going to use this.
Good.
Perspective, plan, practice, a pull, and with pull you mean like pull over, like you're pulling
Right.
over for
Like a
something.
pull, something that pulls you forward. Imagine a rope
Ah, okay. So
and a
you're not
rope
like
puller
pushing
swinging.
yourself forward.
Exactly.
Okay, that
Yeah. The
makes
opposite
sense.
of push is pull. So
Cool.
when we're pushing,
Yeah.
we're always like mustering up willpower to push. But if
Mm-hmm.
we complement that willpower and that motivation, that discipline with a pull, something that pulls us forward and gives us momentum, something that makes us
Mm-hmm.
excited, then we don't have to always muster up the willpower to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because excitement is related to dopamine, and dopamine is our motivation hormone. Like it makes us feel energized to go and do something.
Right.
And if the pull can actually create dopamine, like music, then you can actually
Mhm.
have the momentum continued. So it's like the initial plan and the perspective gives us the start. And then
Mhm.
each of the elements helps us kind of rev the engine, making it go, 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 go even faster. That is
Yes.
very
Yes. I
cool.
love that image. That's exactly it. It is. And it
Ah,
keeps you moving. It keeps you moving in the direction. It keeps you wanting to continue,
yeah.
even on days when it feels hard.
Mm-hmm. Because
We
we're
make
gonna
it,
have those days. It's
yes,
inevitable.
we do. And I think
Yeah.
we just make it so much harder than it has to be
Mm-hmm.
so often, or we think that it has to be hard in
Yeah.
order
We
to
force it to be
succeed.
hard.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. I mean, there's hard work that entailed, there's hard days, but
Yeah.
we don't have to make it hard for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to add to that plate. We can add some beauty and some goodness to
Mm-hmm.
that day and to that plate so that it feels a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that makes sense why your podcast name and why you talk so much about the momentum restart. So if you have the momentum and it slows down, how do you restart it? And it makes sense how this the five P's really fit into that. And I think I forgot the last one, the permission to have
Yes.
the detours. That's very interesting.
It's so
Yeah.
important. And you're right. The restart is a big part of it, and that goes with the permission. It's really
Yeah.
every client I'm working with, it's all about learning the art of restarting, knowing that there's the
Mm-hmm.
art to it. It's not just a skill that we learn and then we have
Mhm.
forever. There's an art, it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
We have to be able to adapt to circumstances
Hmm.
changing around us. And
Yeah.
that involves just having that permission.
That's so interesting. It really connects also to the pull. Like if you're pushing yourself forward, you start to feel frustrated, possibly.
Right.
And one thing that I recently learned about myself that may be helpful for people to know is I learned anytime I feel frustrated, it means I'm forcing something.
Mm,
And
yeah.
if I'm forcing something, it means that I'm either not giving myself permission or others permission to take that detour, or
Right.
I'm pushing instead of like being pulled.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yes. And
interesting.
it reminds me of your 100 days of practice, which
Yeah.
congratulations, you finished. That's an incredible
Uh-huh.
feat. And so you had this plan, you knew exactly what you
Mhm.
wanted to do. And I'm
Mhm.
sure there were days and things that popped up which
Oh
made it
yeah.
harder. That's very
Yes.
extremely hard to do if anyone's ever tried to do that. And what I loved is that you could see how you did adjust, where some
Mm.
days it was music with your family, some days it was
Mm.
scales to warm up, and then some days it was
Yeah.
a full practice session, and just
Mhm.
allowing yourself permission that it didn't have to
Mm.
look black and white every day.
Yeah.
It just had to be there. You just had to show
Yeah.
up. That
Yeah,
was huge.
exactly. And I have to admit, there was like maybe 3 or 4 days in there that I had to get out of bed to go and practice because I realized I hadn't done it yet. So if there's any like
Wow.
heavy filter on any of the reels,
Yep.
that's why. But all of that
That's
aside,
amazing.
hopefully this inspires the person who's listening that there will be detours, there will be hard days, but
Yeah.
there's really a way where you can have balance. And I know that when we were doing some conversations prep for this episode, you talked a little bit about balance. So can you tell me more about how do you describe balance while scaling a business, having a family? And
Mhm.
just because this is like a cello or music podcast, I'm curious if music plays a role in creating
Yeah.
that balance.
Yeah, it absolutely does for sure. And one thing to note when talking about balance, and this is what I teach in everything that I'm sharing with clients, and I work with clients to help achieve this. And at the same time, it's never perfect. So I always love to put that out there that yes, we're able to find balance, but it's never going to feel perfect because, like what we just talked about, things are always changing.
Mhm.
So we do have to have that self-awareness to be able to make adjustments and listen to ourselves.
Mhm.
And music for me really helps me do that. Actually, it helps me to check
Mm.
in on myself. It helps me to pause for a minute and be fully present, which can be hard to do when we're working from home, there's kids and
Yeah.
there's so much on our plates. And I'm often, and I think a lot of high achievers are just always thinking of the next thing we have to do.
Mhm.
There's a running list in our head, and music for me shuts out everything. And I remember that since I was a kid playing the piano. It to me was the one place where I could go where I didn't have to hear anyone else or like
Mhm.
listen to anyone else or think about anything else. It just was the only place that all I had to think about was playing the right note or a note. It
Mhm.
didn't even have to be
Yeah.
right. And it was just playing the music. And especially for me I love to play the piano and I love to sing. I've tried some other instruments. I
Mhm.
can't, this is not working for me so far, but I'm trying. But for me, it's actual like you're touching the piano, you're
Mhm.
feeling the vibrations of
Yeah.
the music. When you're singing, you're feeling that through your body, your whole
Yeah.
body, and you're hearing it. And it's just such a beautiful five senses type of experience that you have to be
Mhm.
present. It really does help me check in with how I'm doing, where I'm at. And it also is a huge piece of processing life. Just if I'm frustrated about
Yeah.
something, I can sit down and just wail on the piano and sing at the top of my lungs, and I will feel like light as a feather afterwards.
Yeah.
Or feeling really sad about something, I'll sing
Mhm.
a really sad song and I'll cry. And it's just such
Mhm.
a beautiful way to process it. Or worship or celebration, just
Yeah.
every emotion. It is such a beautiful way to really feel and process those emotions in a healthy way.
Amber, that's amazing. I love that you have this as a tool.
Mhm.
What would you say to the entrepreneur who is thinking about music, but they think I'm not musical, or I could never have this as a tool for myself. Like that sounds amazing, but it's just not for me. I'm just so curious, like while we're on this topic.
Mhm. I love that question because I've been a teacher as well for many
Mm-hmm.
years and helping kids and adults, mostly kids, teach them piano and voice and singing, and everyone
Mm-hmm.
can learn. There is music in
Mm-hmm.
every single one of us. And when we are learning with the mindset of, and I try to teach this to my kids now, they're 7 and 9, and they're trying every instrument, which is super fun to
Yeah.
see. And we have so many instruments around our living room. I love it. And they're just trying different things. And I always encourage them that it's just to try and it's just
Mm-hmm.
to have fun, and it's there to express themselves
Mm-hmm.
and taking off that pressure that it doesn't have to
Yeah.
sound a certain way. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to. Some of my favorite moments in music are when someone sounds terrible. It is like the
Yeah.
most joyful noise ever. And I love it. I used to sing at the women's prison here. My sister and I would go and we would
Mm-hmm.
sing worship songs there. And there were some days where it was just not the most beautiful sound coming from the other end, but those were the most beautiful moments
Mm-hmm.
hearing them sing. And because it was they were so present in the moment of the music. And so
Yeah.
anyone listening thinking like, well, it has to be a certain way or it has to sound
Mm-hmm.
really good, it really is such a gift of just expression and processing those emotions. And there is so much power in hearing it, feeling it, and experiencing it. So just allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself, it's a great practice to allow yourself to try to let go of that perfection and just enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm. That is powerful. And I can see how that reflects into business as well. We think our businesses have to look a certain way, and we
Right.
don't open ourselves up for the cacophony of noise that actually allows us to come more present into what do we want our voice to be saying.
Yes.
And music can be a safe place for you to explore being okay with a lack of perfection. um
Hmm.
I'm like my reticular activating system is on the P words right now. You mentioned your presence and
Hmm.
helps you process life. And
Yes.
both of those can actually help someone create the balance in their life, because it's the safe place that makes all the scary things that feel out of balance come into balance. Like when you have
Yes.
out of balance emotions, you can go play a song like you described and you can cry about it. You can gradually shift to the music. That's actually a music therapy technique. You can shift the music into a different key, into a different mood, and control in a way, like in a healthy way, your emotions. And then the emotions can help produce the right actions and thoughts and result that you're looking for. So that's so interesting. So interesting to hear your testimony about that. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And that totally makes sense with the process of shifting it to a different key or doing
Mm-hmm.
it a different way, and how
Yeah.
it just really, it is so powerful how you're right. In business, we need opportunities to not be perfect. We need to get more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with, I was just on a call with a client today and we were working through, she's on the edge of releasing a new project and releasing a new product. And she's so excited, but today it
Mm-hmm.
was really scary. And it was
Yeah.
that feeling of like, all right, am I sure I want to do this? Can I do this? And we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about how remembering a time in her life where she had done something like this before, a new thing. And then she said something so interesting. She said, well, there was one time where I did this new thing and I made a lot of mistakes, but it turned out great. And I said, that's it. You made a lot of mistakes, but it turned out great. That's what we
Yeah.
need to get comfortable with. And
Mm-hmm.
the music helps us do that. Any creative
Yeah.
outlet, getting
Mm-hmm.
used to letting go of perfection is only
Yeah.
going to enhance our life and just give us
Mm-hmm.
more.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's a tool that we can use. It's one of the tools in the bucket that helps us get back into the flow, get back into that momentum,
Right.
and help us to get back into balance, like a sense of that your priorities are straight. Because as moms and business owners, we're never going to have this illusion of balance where our time
Right.
is equally split or the kids are perfectly napping in X
Yeah.
amount of time. So
Never
it's like
happens.
we can't put it in boxes. So balance
Right.
is more of an emotional state than a
Mm,
physical or tangible, actionable thing.
yes.
So, on that topic of balance, do you have any advice or go-to steps for yourself when things kind of get shaky, and fall out of balance? Because we've talked about music, but I'm curious, like just from your
Yeah,
business perspective and from your coaching perspective.
absolutely. When everything feels shaky and out of balance, it stops everything. I really try to listen to, and I'm starting to notice how it feels in my body or how
Mm,
I'm speaking to my kids or even what types of foods I'm grabbing, like
mm,
just noticing my different behaviors and realizing, okay, that is a signal to me that I'm starting to feel really off balance here.
mhm.
And so I actually stop everything, and it's usually counterproductive. It feels counterproductive, but it isn't because we always do have long lists of things to do. Like, well, I
Yeah.
should just push through and work on all these things. But when that happens, I know that no amount of pushing is going to help overcome this.
Mhm.
I stop
Mhm.
everything, maybe for the afternoon, maybe for the weekend, and I take a break. I just be with my family.
Mhm.
I get outside, I'm in nature, and always when I come back, whether it's just for 4 hours, 4 hours is my minimum I've found too, where it has to be at
Interesting.
least 4 hours, ideally for a whole weekend, but if it's only
Mhm.
4 hours, that works too. And after that, I am so much more productive and clear and
Mhm.
energized. That was nothing I could have made myself or pushed myself to do. It really just,
Yeah,
you have to stop.
that is so wise. It shows that you know yourself. You know that if you keep pushing, you're not going to
Mhm.
be pulled in the right direction.
Right.
I think that that is such an actionable thing that people can walk away with because the stopping, like for you, you found your minimum is 4 hours, but the stopping, it could look like 4 minutes.
Right.
You just have to figure out what is your own minimum.
Right.
And then if you can have more expansiveness in that time, then it can just help. But from a music perspective, and I always come back to this because of
I love
who I
it.
am and what I teach,
Absolutely. You have
music could
to.
actually be your stopping point or
Right.
the thing you do. Because as entrepreneurs, we're like, okay, well, if I'm stopping, what am I doing while I'm stopping? Like the business
Yes.
has to keep moving. But what if your stopping was actually productive? Where you
Yes.
started working on your roots, like the computer system of your brain that actually makes the decisions. And what I've found is that music can actually expand time. So, one thing you may not know, and maybe you do know this, and you probably do from experience, is musicians have a different sense of time than a non musician, like someone who's never played music. We perceive time differently,
Hmm.
meaning that time slows down more for us when we're doing something creative because of the centers of the brain that's developed. And then
Wow.
also when we are doing something that requires a lot of presence, we have a greater capacity for concentration. So it's easier to get into that flow state where time really feels like it doesn't exist. Time, we don't feel it passing by. So it may either go way faster than what we expect or way slower.
Hmm.
And the stopping, if you think you only have, let's say, an hour to actually stop, but you spend that hour doing some sort of music, then that hour can feel like a weekend. It can
Wow.
feel like it's longer if you're doing the right activities. So that's just a connection I'm suddenly making with this idea of stopping because it's something I need to do. I need
Yeah.
to actually stop the momentum on purpose
Right. Right.
to restart it after the
Yes.
fact. So very interesting. That was my
Oh,
sudden
I
light
love
bulb
that.
moment
I love that.
about
And
that.
restarting it after that type of break
Mhm.
that you're productive in this really beautiful way is
Yeah.
gonna be easy to start. It's not a wheel
Yeah.
that is stuck in the mud for a while. It's just a
Yes.
easy, like a car that moves quick. It's
Hmm.
an easy wheel
Hmm.
to move. And
Yeah.
it's something we all need to learn
Hmm.
how to stop. But and that's a
Yeah.
pull to help you stop too,
Yeah.
knowing like I'm thinking right now, my kids are going to get home about an hour from
Hmm.
work or from school. And I'm thinking I have a bunch of things I could knock out. But after talking, I'm looking at the piano thinking, but I think I'm going to go over there and play a few songs. And that helps set the
Yeah.
tone for like switching to mom
Hmm.
mode too. But
Hmm.
also that's the pull of that helps you to stop because it's something
Yeah.
fun, it's something different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of what my husband has told me about athletes. So he used to be a biathlete. He was on Team Canada, and they would
Oh.
have to take time off in order to recover. But
Hmm.
athletes, like their brains are wired where they rely on the dopamine and the like the
Right.
norepinephrine, like all of those amazing things that's happen when you are in high exercise mode. So then they would have like hiking, they would have like productive rest
Right.
activities so that they could continue their momentum but rest at the same time. So as
That's
entrepreneurs,
amazing.
we need to find ways that we are okay with resting, where resting doesn't mean like rotting in bed. That's a thing
Right.
that's going around on social
I
media, isn't
know.
it? Um, and that makes me think also about the root of the word inspiration and motivation. So inspire means spirit within. So it's an internal thing that then comes out through what you do. So inspire, when you have a mode to be inspired through like music, then you can show up better when you then continue that momentum. Motivate, it means motive. So you have an external motive. And that external motive, it could be something that you're like pushing you. Inspiration is almost pulling you. So if we have a balance between the two, you can still push towards your goals, but in a way that you feel inspired by, if that makes sense.
That's beautiful. I love that. I've never thought of it that way with those words or even heard the root of those words. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly it.
Yeah. I love those words because of what they represent. I always see words as like these cities. There's always a city behind the word.
That's so true.
Mhm.
So true. When we pause enough to
Mhm.
dig deeper.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also mentioned how you use piano to switch from work mode to mom mode. So
Yep.
within that category of still balancing the two, how do you do that? You mentioned a
Yeah,
couple of really
that
fun
is.
things I'd love for you to share.
It is hard to, we are switching from so many modes as moms and moms who work and moms who business owners, all those different areas of life. And so
Mhm.
it can feel our central nervous system, it just keeps, I look at it kind of like a bag in the wind, like a plastic bag that's floating
Mm.
around, or a leaf. I'm thinking a bag from an old movie, but a leaf that's floating in the air, and just the leaf kind of gets higher and higher and higher as the day goes on. But if we give ourselves a chance to bring that leaf back down to the ground, it'll only go up so high and then back down to the ground instead of continuing to lift all the way up to the
Mm.
sky. So it really helps me to have pauses in the day to switch between modes. So between I drop the kids off, and then before I shift into work mode, I actually usually drop them off, grab a coffee, and go on a little walk for 15 minutes or
Mm. I love
information
that.
or something to just instead of jumping right into the day. And now knowing that they're going to be coming home soon, something I try to do, I don't always do it, but I try to get ready to switch to mom mode so that I'm
Mm.
ready to welcome them home and I'm ready to be
Mm.
present. I'm not distracted.
Mhm.
And something that really helps me do that is playing and singing the piano. I'll stop here. So if I'm at home and my husband today is picking up the kids, so I'll probably pause and play and sing. Or if I'm driving, just listening to music
Yeah.
too, and different music and music that has great
Mm.
memories tied to it, or how I want to
Mm.
feel when I get there. I'll listen to music that's going to help me get to that moment. And it really helps
Mhm.
me switch between those modes for sure.
That is so cool. That is so cool. It makes me think of what Brennan Burchard talks about in High Performance Habits about having a reset. It's like 2 minutes. He describes it as 1 minute of you breathe, and every exhale you say release, release, release. You're releasing the previous mode or activity or role. And then the next minute is you, every inhale and exhale, you think about who you want to be in the next mode. So for some people, those transition moments could be like when you get in your car on your way to work, when you were like being mom, now going to your co-working space or whatever it is.
Yep.
And then when you arrive again in the driveway, or even like anytime you go through a doorway, like sometimes those could be triggers. The room
Yeah.
represents a certain role that you're in, like the kitchen versus your office. So I love how intentional you are with those like containers in your day, and then the transition points. that you've found ways to be as intentional as you can to make the most of the time you have. It's almost like you're sharpening your sword for the next activity.
Mhm.
And with music, you're sharpening your sword to have the emotional capacity to manage your 7-year-old, your 9-year-old, and help
Yes.
them thrive in the best way. And
Yes.
I'm so curious also if you connect to your kids through music. Like, do you ever do any activities with them? I know you
For
mentioned you have
sure.
lots of instruments, but
Yes, we do
uh,
have a lot right now. And Max just came home with the recorder, so that's going to be a new one that
that's
we're
fun.
adding. It's so cute. Right now we have Max is playing drums, a recorder, and piano, and Jack is playing the piano and the guitar. And we're also in theater right now, so they have acting, singing, and dancing. So we're trying all sorts of
Mm,
things. But we've always had music connecting us together as a family. And when
that's
they
so
were
cool.
little, which we still do this, but we did this a ton when they were really little. And, sometimes just words or coaxing a 2-year-old doesn't work. So
Yeah.
we would turn on a dance party music, we would call it. We'd have dance parties. So if
Mm.
all of us were just starting to get frustrated or just stuck in a loop, we would turn on, at the time it was Justin Timberlake's song from the Trolls that everybody loved. And we would turn that on and we would all dance. And we were just watching videos of it the other week because it was such a core memory for the boys. They remember, like, we would
Wow.
dance to that song in the kitchen, in the family room. And when my husband gets home he travels a lot for work. When he gets home
Mm.
from a long trip, they call it the final countdown, and they have the old 80s song, The Final Countdown, and they play it as loud as, like, I'm sure every neighbor can hear it. And they play it so loud. And then my husband gets home and they all just run around and dance. And we just have these little anchors
Oh,
that
that's
wait
so
to
fun.
celebrate. So we have dance parties, and then playing instruments. We've always sung together. I have certain I was just going to age myself and say CDs. So I have certain music I listen to on the way to drop the kids off. So it's always a
Mm.
similar song just to get
Hmm.
their hearts ready for the day. And now we are, I've been trying to teach them piano since they were 4. And they are wonderful. We work well together, but it's been really hard for me to follow through to make sure I'm teaching them and
Yeah, it's tough for moms to do
just
that.
keeping up with it. And so we just started recently. I have a teacher teaching them. It's only been 2 weeks and they have
Mm.
surpassed anything I've ever taught them. So I'm so glad it was the right move. But it's
That's
so
good.
interesting because every night before bed now, about 7 o'clock, the boys take turns and they want me to sit next to them at the piano. And I'll have hot tea and I'm sitting with them at the piano. They play their songs for me, even if they know them, they just want me to sit there.
Mm.
And my 9-year-old, who is not a snuggly one, he is just kind of like his own. My 7-year-old snuggly, but my 9-year-old just kind of wants his space. He wants
Yeah.
me sitting right next to him. And in
Oh.
between almost every couple of songs, he'll turn and give me a hug. And it's that for him,
Oh.
that is, so you just know that that
Wow.
time together at the piano is meaning so much to
Hmm.
him. It's just meeting
Yeah.
him in a really beautiful place.
Mm.
So I now know from 7 to 8 o'clock every night, I will be at the piano no matter what, because it is
Hmm.
a special place for them where mom's not distracted. We're together
Yeah.
and I'm encouraging him and we're playing duets together and we just make it
Hmm.
so much fun.
Oh, that's so special. Wow, I'm like getting tears in my eyes because I have a 17-month-old and he loves music and he loves being at the piano with us. But hearing like an older kid, like still not in the teenage realm yet, but
Right.
like of an not the little kid stage,
Right. Yep.
how they feel so heard and seen by their mom through music. Like music is now one of your main connecting points with them after a busy day. And as
Yeah.
entrepreneurs who are moms, we can often feel so distracted throughout the day. Like we get a message from a client saying, I no longer want to work with you, cancel my thing. And it's like right during
Right.
lunch. And you happen to see it on your Apple Watch, even though your phone's maybe in a drawer somewhere,
Yeah.
and you're distracted. Like even though your kid maybe is eating broccoli for the first time and they
Right.
need you to see them doing this. I'm just random examples thinking of that. But music can then be a place where they feel seen. And what I'm noticing, like just from that story of your 9-year-old, it shows that he has a need for his mom to see him and to see his progress. And
Yes.
like you mentioned, even if the song's not even learned yet or it's the same song every night, it just makes him
Mhm.
feel like he's loved. And it's through the realm of
Yes.
music.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring.
It's so
Wow.
powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm really thankful for it. And it really
Mhm.
it helps us to, I feel like connecting over music together as a family is so much more connecting other than
Mm.
we love to do so many adventures with our kids. We're out playing basketball or going on bike rides and things like that. And
Mhm.
we try really hard to not have TV on at night,
Yeah.
especially during the school week. And this now is becoming what we do at night. And it makes me so happy
Mm.
because they fight about who's going to go first, who gets to sit with
Oh,
mom.
that's so
And
cute.
it's precious. So to be able to have
Wow.
that special time for them
Mhm.
and to make
Mhm.
music, it's so important to make music a positive experience for kids
Mhm.
and just something that you want them to have it be something that they want to do their whole life because it's
Yeah.
going to be such a tool for them when they're an
Mhm.
adult to
Mhm.
help them thrive and to help them
Yeah.
handle life. So
Yeah.
I
Like
want to
it's
make
been
it
for
really
you.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want
Mhm.
to make it really positive for them and anyone listening to and thinking like, how am I going to add this in type of thing, type of music.
Mhm.
I've loved when I was teaching piano, a few children that came, the mom decided to start learning with the kids. And
Yes.
those families were so inspiring because the kids learned faster because
Mhm.
their mom was so involved in it. She played at the recital, probably the same level song that her kids were, and they were
Mhm.
so proud of her. And it was just this really beautiful connecting piece. And so if that is something you could do too, where you're including the family, or
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be something that takes you away, it can be something that really brings you together, actually.
Yes, exactly. And I know that moms generally want their kids to do music. Like we all
Right.
see the value in it, but we often feel like we're forcing them or nagging them to practice.
Mhm.
So there really is a way that if you learn an instrument alongside them, that the nagging can go away. That the
Right.
music can actually be one of the best connecting points where you don't have to be watching a movie or like having screens connected to the
Right.
connecting point, and that it can be the thing you look forward to, that everyone in the family can actually look forward to it and fight to be next to mom.
Yeah.
When you play music together, your brain waves actually go into sync.
That's
So that's
amazing.
one of the things that I think you're experiencing with your boys is they're playing music and then your brain waves are going in sync. And those brain waves are connected directly to the limbic brain. And I know you know about the limbic brain, listeners on the podcast do as well. But in case someone's like listening for the first time, it's the part of the brain that has no capacity for language. So it helps you answer questions like, why do I love my kids? Why do I love my work? Why do I love my husband? You just think, I just love him so much. You hardly can put words to it. But if there's a way to actually feel the emotions deeply through the limbic brain with the brainwaves syncing up, then the kids can feel that love without you like feeling like your words aren't enough, where they can actually feel how much you love them, even though they may never know how much you've done for them. They will feel it. Yeah.
Wow. That is fast. That makes me want to go cry in the corner. Like that is so precious and incredible. What a gift we have that is
Mhm.
a thing that
Such
we
an amazing
just
tool.
have that every single human being has access to.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. That is so cool. I love that you're doing that already with your boys. And I love that you also mentioned the topic of if someone doesn't feel like they have the time to do it and just like this is yet another thing I need to add. You actually work a lot with people about creating more space and time for taking care of themselves. So, how can people work with you so that they actually have the ability to go and do this?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what we do. I create 90-day momentum mapping for clients.
Mm,
So if you are feeling overwhelmed with your task list or feeling like if you ask yourself this question, what do I enjoy doing outside of work? And it's hard for you to find the answer, or you're noticing it's been a really long time since you've done that thing, or
Yeah.
there's something new you want to try. I hear from a lot of moms, they want to be able to experience and explore a new hobby, like learning music, or
Yeah.
they want to be able to read. There's things that they know enhance their life and they feel like they don't have time for it. So what we do is we map out over the next 90 days your goals. Yes, your goals for business, your goals for work, and how you're going to achieve those. But what we do it in a really unique way where we plan your life first. We plan the things that are most important to you, whether that's connecting family time or
Mhm.
whether it's learning an instrument, whether it's working out more, whatever that specific thing to you is that's going to enhance your life. And then we plan your business around that. So
That's
it's
smart.
little backwards, but actually the best way forward.
Exactly. Just this morning I was chatting with a friend about how she was telling me her kids are in a stage where they need her a lot right now, but her business also is in a stage where it needs her a lot. Like both her
Yeah.
kids and her business are both like little kids. And she
Mm-hmm.
was saying like she doesn't want to get to where her kids are 18 years old and one is off doing who knows what and the other
Mm-hmm.
one doesn't talk to her and but yet she has a multi-million dollar business. Like
Right.
she couldn't live with herself if that was the case. And what you're talking about is actually a way where these really high priority things that don't make money but
Mm-hmm.
really really matter, if they
Yeah.
are the top, if they are the place where you start with, then there's actually a way where you can have it all, where you can have both.
Yes.
That's why I love what you do. You give women the hope and then also the plan behind the hope.
Right.
You give them inspiration and the motivation to be able
Right.
to go
Mhm.
and do what they're passionate about and be the moms that they want to be.
That's so
And
true.
that's
And it's knowing, like you said, that's exactly why I do what I do and why I started this business and this method and why I live for it every day. Because
mm-hmm.
when my ultimate goal is Mike and I's goal is when the kids leave, that they still want to be able to come home. So
Yeah.
after they leave the house when they're 18
Mm-hmm.
or whenever it happens to be, that they'll want to come home, that they'll want to spend time
Mm-hmm.
with us, that they'll just love those connections and
Yeah.
memories and traditions that we've made. And my goal I always think of what is success to me, and that is, okay, I want my business to look a certain way, and who do I want to be surrounded by when I'm at that level?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be there by myself. I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
whole family with me, and I want it to be a huge celebration because we've done it together. So
Yeah.
planning out your 90 days with that in mind is
Mm-hmm.
it takes all the pressure off, and it
Yeah.
gets you. I've worked with a particular client for 2 years, and every 90 days, we've mapped out her 90 days,
Hmm.
and her business has grown exponentially. But the thing that
That
makes me
is
more
cool.
excited is she has 3 children at home, and her number one goal is to be present with them every day. And so that's what we've
Mm.
mapped out. So imagine 2 years, every 90 days,
Mhm.
she's planned out how she's going to intentionally be connecting with her kids. So even though her business has grown exponentially in 2 years,
Yeah.
she has lived out her intention of being present with her kids every day. And
Wow.
that's worth more than anything.
Yeah, you can measure it.
Yeah, you can't. You absolutely
Yeah.
can't.
You can't put a price on it. Because that is what gives us fulfillment.
Right.
It's the people. Like the people that we are with every day is what matters. And you have these little humans at home who love their moms so much. They want their mom to be there. And that's what Amber does. So, what is the best place for people to find you if they are wanting that?
Yes, I would encourage you, the best place to start right now would be to go to my website. It's Coach Amber B, the letter B, coachamberb.com. And on that first page, you can download a freebie. It's called The Four
Mm.
Things That High Achieving Women Do Every Day. And I'll make sure you have the link for that too.
Yes, I will put that in the show notes.
It's a great
Mm-hmm.
place to start. You'll be able to get, I send out a couple of times a month some really great tips and motivation and inspiration.
Mm.
And also, this four things is going to help you to slow down and consider, what does success mean to you, help you start making a plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mini journal sort of that you can work your way through. And you can
Mm-hmm.
also follow me on Coach Amber B at Instagram as well, or check out the Momentum Restart podcast.
Amazing. I'll make sure that all of those links are in the show notes, that it's really easy. You can just scroll and click on it and you can find
Awesome.
Amber. We will do that. And I always end podcasts with a guest with a surprise question. I did not tell Amber what this question is. I told her that I had one, but so the question is, if you were to play the cello, what would be your dream song?
Ooh, you're right. I had no idea this question was coming, but I'm so excited. My dream song. That is a really challenging question. Especially because it's the cello, because I want it to be very specific.
Mhm.
I actually would love, the song I love to hear the most on the piano is Clair de Lune. And
Mm,
I'm wondering I'm just curious what that would sound like on the cello. What would,
it's
how,
beautiful.
I've never heard it. I want to hear it. That sounds really fun.
I love that answer. And you know what? I actually have in my 100 days of practice, day 9 or 10, I recorded that on the cello. So
I'm gonna go check it out right
I'll
away.
send
Oh,
it
I
to
can't
you right
wait.
afterwards. Yeah, amazing
Oh, I
choice. I
can't
love
wait.
that. Mhm.
Fun.
But thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your insight. Amber, this conversation was just such a highlight for me this week and this quarter. It's people like you that I get to talk to that shows me again why I do what I do, why we want this message of you are made for more to go out to people, why we do the work we do. And just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a guest today.
Oh,
Thank you so
thank
much,
you
Amber.
so much. I love our conversation so much, and thank you for having me.